the Harris campaign really seems to be banking on the sort of like moderate female
character.
Yeah, like Nikki Haley type voter. And at the same time, Trump's approval ratings are a little bit higher than they were last time around, and certainly than they were in 2016. So I think part of that is people have kind of memory hold some of the most salacious allegations, some of his most salacious and horrifying acts. And so this again brings up like, this is a guy who's been serially accused of this type of behavior, sexual assault, groping, et cetera, et cetera. You throw in there a Jeffrey Epstein connect. This, this former model alleges that they were very close friends, Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. And it does sort of potentially exacerbate that gender divide, which is what the Harris campaign is really banking on, being able to get enough women on their side between Trump's behavior and the issue of abortion to be able to put them over the top.
Yeah, you can go too far and make some voters think that he's being put upon, that he's being falsely accused. The idea of the AI video, that would be smart, I think, to fight a video that's damaging and claim it's AI. I was at the Post when Amy Gardner, my colleague, got the audio of Trump pressuring Brad Raffensperger, and I immediately saw people try to spin that out of existence. You can have something rock solid and people will say it's not true. But that's what they're trying to do, right? Freeze in people's minds before they vote. Do you really want to go through all of this for 4 years? Do you really want to go for all of it with a 78-year-old president with somebody in the wings? If he's damaged, would J.D. Vance take over? They do want to throw, not in the way that a confident campaign that's going to win and feels like it's locked up. Not in that way. They are trying to draw attention to think. You saw this with the vice president yesterday, putting out a statement on this Jeffrey Goldberg Atlantic article. That is not an article that 48% of the country is going to take seriously. They have a mechanism by now which they don't take it seriously. But that is what they're trying to do. And I saw some of that in Wisconsin. They are getting some Republican endorsements. People who were even on the fence or voted for Trump in 2020, they are getting that with the argument that, look, whatever her faults, do you really want to put up with this guy again? Is that compelling? It has papered over some of her issues, and it's allowed her. Maybe it's allowed her. Maybe she'd be doing better. She did more of this to appeal to those Republicans without specifically saying, yes, I'm going to give up on not restoring Remain in Mexico, or yes, I'm going to forever give up on a thing that me and Biden did. She's not going that far. The replacement is, look at this crazy stuff that you don't want with Trump.
You brought up Wisconsin.
That's how she's trying to square the circle.
Yeah. You just spent a long time there.
Yeah.
And we were talking a little bit behind the scenes about all of the Trump ads against Kamala.
Yes.
So what do the Kamala ads against Trump look like? Are they equally as inundating, and is it the character argument? Because that's what they're closing on. That's what they've decided.
Yeah, so interestingly, they're not response ads, which is what you see in a lot of races. I'm being attacked with 3 different ads on something negative, in this case, government-funded sex surgeries for prisoners.
Right.
And not to really get the entire issue, but there are 3 ads on that. And the campaign's not putting out ads saying, no, I didn't, or here's why I did that. It's putting out ads, 1, about her economic agenda, 2, about kind of January 6th and Trump's character. And that is, after 2022, you can't tell Democrats that people don't care about this. They were told nobody cares, and then it was decisive in a lot of suburbs. But they're letting a lot of attacks go by or to connect on her. On that record, they really are not doing a lot, and you've seen it. It's been the hardest question for her to answer in interviews: is where Biden got something wrong, where she would change from Biden. She's not doing that with the advertising. She is just saying and I would actually say the Future Forward PAC, especially the Super PAC, very economic focused message. So you do hear, if you're watching TV, you're watching Packers game. I guess I got lucky because very exciting one on Sunday. you do see, okay, she'd have this kind of tax cut for me. I don't know how sticky it was because I went out with people canvassing too, and you were finding voters who, at this point, still didn't know what her economic plan was, still didn't know exactly how she'd restore Roe. But that's the strategy. It's not, let's hit back at everything Trump says. Let's just come up with something that maybe the voter who's undecided say, well, Trump is talking about crazy negative stuff and she has a plan. That's the impression they want people to leave. Not that she's fighting back on everything.
I mean, I feel like in a sense, the Liz Cheney tour is an effort to fight back against, because what is that, the, transgender surgery ad? Yes, it's about the issue, but it's also about, like, she is this liberal San Franciscan who doesn't connect with American values. And to me, the effort with the Liz Cheney tour, which I have a million issues with, I've talked about before, but anyway, the effort with that is to be like, look at these moderate Republicans who are super comfy with me. So I can't be that crazy if Liz Cheney is willing to, hang out with me and endorse me and go and do those town halls, et cetera. So in a way, I feel like that's her effort to blunt the core of that attack, which is like you're too liberal to represent all of America.
Yeah, that's how it felt. I went to one of those events in the Milwaukee suburbs, and you did meet. I met there people who'd been Republican up till 2020 and then bailed. But that's what I mean. She wasn't saying, here's a promise you can take home. She was offered a couple of chances. She was better at a couple of the other Cheney events. Hey, my neighbor is worried about something that you did in your past. She didn't say what she would do differently. She didn't even mention I'd put a Republican in the cabinet. I think maybe because the Trump campaign has fed this idea that she'd put Cheney in a national security position, which Democrats say they would not do, but you got her on stage. Like, not a good topic to bring up at that moment. But she's not. That is what's different. Whereas Trump, whether you think it's credible or not, Trump will just promise something. Trump will say, yes, I'm going to get this thing that the culinary union wanted, this tax cut, I'm going to do it. Don't ask me how I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And Democrats are so much more cautious, just generally. The Trump campaign takes a lot of risks, puts out a lot of ideas that might be hard to implement. It knows that I think Republicans won't say, how will you pay for that? Because it's not how they run. They want him to win. And her campaign is much more cautious in saying, no, we will make some hard break, which is, this leg of Liz Cheney tour was a little more confounding because they were getting hit on one end for having Cheney campaign. AIPAC, this Arab American pro-Trump PAC, was running ads in Michigan. I only saw photos, I haven't been in Michigan yet, that are just pictures of Cheney and Harris together in Arab American neighborhoods.
Interesting.
Are they getting the gain on the other side by saying, and Liz Cheney will validate Harris, don't worry about X issue. Right. It's not the issue, it's just democracy. It sounds too blasé, but it really is just the democracy issue as opposed to the, hey, she's learned her lesson on immigration. Hey, she's learned her lesson on crime. Some of the ads do say that, but they're really not delivering the stuff that somebody really on the fence might say, oh, I'm confident I'm not going to see 10 million border crossers if she's president. That hasn't happened yet.
So I saw Nate Silver make a point, which is contrary to this whole Liz Cheney thing. Okay. He said, look, guys, at the end of the day, I think that these people are already called Harris voters. Like, you don't need to go after them. And that's, I mean, intuitively kind of accepts my bias towards the issue. But while you were there, were they already Harris voters? Like, are these people genuinely undecided? Like, how do we square that question?
They felt odd about voting for a Democrat, but they just couldn't bring themselves to vote for Trump. They probably were Harris voters because and you see this now that the polling, I think there are a couple errors with the screens or a couple of hiccups with the voter screens registered versus likely. She is doing better in a lot of places with the more likely voters, and those are the guys who were Republican 20 years ago, the women who voted for Mitt Romney, who always vote in school board elections. They have been fishing in that pond while Trump goes for the less. I mean, this is what the Trump-Rogan interview is about.
Absolutely.
Very obviously, there are people who hate politics, don't trust politicians. I'm going to introduce myself. And hey, maybe they're registered, maybe they'll turn out. This campaign is, no, there is an electorate. We know how to win this electorate in 2020, barely. If we get 95% of that vote out, then we win. That is the theory. It's much more rebuilding than addition.
I want to ask you a little bit more about that, but I'm also curious about your time going out with canvassers. What type of doors were you hitting? Were they like persuasion, or were these, we got to get you to turn out? And was there any particular issue that was really being brought up again and again at the doors?
It was a mix of, so with I did with Republicans in Arizona, mostly people who were registered but hadn't turned their ballot in yet. And they just needed the kick, but they were going to vote for Trump. With Democrats, I was with mostly Democratic households, some people who they think voted Democratic because there's no party registration in the state. And it was, the people who were on the fence needed clarity about what she was going to do about the economy and prices, needed clarity about her abortion. One stuck with me in one part of kind of central Wisconsin, a woman who she was pro-choice, but she wasn't sure what Harris is actually going to do, which is amazing they didn't break through how much time they spent on it. I don't want to overestimate that one thing, but I did put it into my database of voters are busy and not paying attention to every promise they make.
Right.
She's not repeated enough. I was not seeing huge shifts from. I remember going in 2016, and every Democrat had this experience, including the ones I was canvassing with, of going to what was a Obama neighborhood and finding Trump voters, and that wasn't happening. It was, these are the voters who voted against Scott Walker in Wisconsin. These are the voters who were gettable for Ron Johnson, but voted for the Governor Evers. It's the margin of maybe 5% of the electorate they were going for. As opposed to big surprise. If somebody wants to show me the big surprises, take me to it. But they were in this context. going to central Wisconsin, white voters who are undecided. Democrats admit they're not going to get the 2020 margin with